Good morning, lesbians.
Good morning!
Oh dear.
That was Ali at the back from Scotland. You can hear her a mile away. My name's Samantha Foster. Please call me Sam. I'll be facilitating this session. This is the final session of 3, organised by lesbians within the FiLiA volunteering team. We usually do thanks at the end, but I'm going to do it at the beginning. Thanks to Lynn Alderson, who is just over there, who brought us together. She had this idea. She had this idea that lesbians are kind of really important to the women's movement and that we might want to focus on lesbians at this FiLiA. So we have this is the final of 3 sessions. Our 3 events are a linked stream with time for women to participate and to network. They are not the only events across FiLiA of particular interest to lesbians, but we hope that these sessions will lead to new connections and encourage activism. We have had speakers as well for the last 2 sessions who are recording our history and those continuing the struggle, and we hope they will also reflect the joy and sisterhood many of us have found in our lesbian communities. Community has meant very different things and taken many forms of connection and mutual support over our lifetimes and across cultures. We wanted to explore the activism of courageous women who have made their own forms of community and recognise those who are fighting for our rights once again against a rising tide of misogyny and lesbian erasure. I have 5 speakers with me today. We'll take them one at a time. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end if we run to time. And then after that we're running into the lunch break, so we hope that you'll stay and network and talk to some other lesbians who are here as well.
Okay.
This is Charlie. She does tech.
Stop saying that!
We love tech. Yes. You're the most important person.
You can say that.
Yes.
So first up we will have Sarah from Résistance Lesbienne, which has the best name in lesbian organising. She is co-founder of Get the Ill Out and also Résistance Lesbienne. She will talk about the situation of lesbians in France and networking internationally. Then we have Lepa, Mlađenović.
Excellent.
My friend Nina's been trying to teach me. She is a Serbian lesbian feminist who will speak of her years of lesbian activism and lesbian solidarity in times of conflict. Then we have Myriam Fougère, who will be talking about La Maison de RebElles. She's an artist and filmmaker. The house is a social housing project in Montreal, which is now home to 22 women, aged 55 and over, lesbians and feminist allies, so we're going to hear a little bit more about that. And then myself and Miranda Imperial, will speak about our organising with London Lesbian Collective. And then as a treat, we have Akua Reindorf. One of our most respected legal authorities. She'll be speaking about where we are now and the importance of lesbian communities to her. So now I have to ask you a really important question.
Are we lesbians?
Is everyone a lesbian? Have you had your hair cut this week?
Yes, and my chin waxed.
So I don't know how many of you were in FiLiA Cardiff, but it was there that a couple of lesbians, Jess and Becky, organised a lesbian session. And during that session, they asked a question to the room. So I'm going to ask you to put your hands up, please. How long has it been before this weekend at FiLiA since you were in a lesbian-only space? Put your hand up if it's been at least a week.
What was it? At least a week. So I was in something with
Exclusive. Lesbian-only space? What? Yeah, not your home with your girlfriend. Alone in the toilet? What? So, please put your hand up if it's been at least a week. Keep your hand up if it's been a month. At least a month. Keep your hand up if it's been at least a year. That's a lot of you. If it's been more than 5 years? Okay. Is this anyone's first time being in a lesbian-only space? Can those women please stand up? I remember in Cardiff, there were tears in the room that day, asking that question. So, it's very exciting to be here with you all. Thank you for being here. Now I'm going to stop talking. And first up, we have Sarah. Sarah left male-dominated politics at 23 when she realised the horrors of left-wing men's sexual violence. And then, the new trans ideology pressuring lesbians into accepting men as partners. Enraged and inclined to direct activism, she met like-minded lesbian radical feminists, and co-organised as part of the grassroots activist group Get the L Out, which was one of the very first lesbian visibility actions against transgenderism at London Pride 2018. She's been organising in the UK, in Austria and France since then. Belgium as well. And in those 8 years, she has been organising many community events and political gatherings for lesbian and radical feminists, and more recently has been coordinating Résistance Lesbienne, a lesbian radical feminist network, organising regular meetups and workshops in France and Belgium. She often, apparently, dreams about leaving activism altogether, don't we all, and retiring in the comfort of a cosy life, possibly in the woods. But she can't escape the political aspects of our mere existence as lesbians in patriarchy inspire her to carry on, and thankfully she's met women along the way that she's grateful to know and work with. So Sarah, come over here and please tell us more about your activism and the motivation behind it.
Thank you, Sam. So to answer your question about my motivation behind my activism, so when I started in 2017, I was fully enraged against men, and I became interested in radical feminism kind of on my own behind my computer, and I was in a foreign country, I was living in the UK, and I was impacted by a lot of different problems, and discovering radical feminism made me want to contribute to organize the lesbian radical feminist movement. I was also at a time in my life when I had a bit of headspace, and I could start organize full time. I quickly connected with a lot of women, and back then I thought that I was perceiving a common experience of like loneliness and alienation as lesbians and radical feminists. And it felt to me that we all really needed to meet each other. So I very quickly became passionate about trying to show lesbian visibility to as many lesbians who needed it. And like whichever action we did at Pride, we always had this idea with my co-organizers that if it helps to change, like if the action helps just one lesbian, then it's a successful action. Whether it's by enabling lesbians to embrace their lesbianism or to come out or to detransition as well, because we wanted to have our message about detransitioning as well. I also became very passionate about connecting all the women I knew in real life. I really believed that the more women meet each other in real life, the more likely it was that it would result in some kind of political action and progress of the movement. So yeah, that's why I've been involved in community organizing as well as political, like more public space type of activism, because I thought that any kind of way to meet in real life is better than staying isolated in our corner or behind our computer, because a lot of women of my generation, we meet radical feminism online and we don't know about in real life spaces, and yeah, we can tend to stay behind our computer, and it's still a very isolating and alienating position to be in. So for me, whatever we do, even if it's just like, I don't know, like a lesbian dinner like yesterday, organized by Sam.
We weren't.
Sorry. Yeah, anyway, I meant like even if it's informally, we need to meet in real life, because it's not good to stay behind our computer. Yeah, so that's the...
So could you tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges in lesbian and feminist organising, and what advice you might give your younger self?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges, as a lot of us, when we organize, know. I could talk about the challenges for hours, as some of you here know. But the first advice I would give my younger self is that as much as you need a real way out of patriarchy, the radical feminist movement, or scene, because I don't know if we have a movement, can never be thought of as magically separated from power dynamics of the world, patriarchal world. It's not because we, and I'm including myself, it's not because we are in women-only spaces and that we are lesbians or radical feminists or even separatists that we are suddenly free of the misogyny that is everywhere, and that is all we have known since we were born. So a lot of the challenges in this movement, in my opinion, actually boil down to the misogyny we ourselves reproduce in various ways, primarily at each other and against ourselves. So there's no magical way of misogyny. And when I was 23, 24, I was very desperate to have this kind of like, some kind of paradise existing. And I was very idealizing of, women as a class and so on. But just not the truth. And it's okay. Like it's better to have a more realistic opinion of what's going on. So don't confuse what you would like to exist with what actually exists. I would say that to my 23 younger self. Yeah, 23-year-old younger self. Your need for sisterhood shouldn't prevent you from seeing what is actually going on. I only understood quite late, maybe too late, that a lot of what we call the infighting and drama are most of the time not just political differences or just personal matters. It's misogyny in action. So don't believe that there is no violence between women or even between lesbian radical feminists, because the truth is that there is some kind of violence, sometimes quite serious, and unequal power dynamics. And in a way, it's actually logical when you think about it, because power struggle, exploitation is all we know in patriarchy. So it means that equality and respectful relationships between each other need a lot of explicit and collective efforts to be built. And so, because of this pervasive misogyny, I would also advise my younger self to protect herself and not to be too vulnerable too quickly with women you don't know, because also we are in this kind of like the personal is political, and we do consciousness raising, and so we are in spaces where we are, we have an incentive to speak about our deepest wounds and like deepest issues and everything, but most of the time the space is not safe enough, let's say, if I may allow myself the expression. So yeah, it's not because they're radical feminists that they want that your vulnerability is not going to be used against you. Sometimes it's definitely going to be used against you. Bad intentions, manipulation, and other kind of like emotional dynamics do exist in this movement because we're not separated from patriarchy. I'm not saying we're worse. I'm just saying like we are in this world. So yeah, you need to be careful about protecting yourself from bad intention and exploitation. And so also for this reason, I learned that horizontality, like how could I define this? Like sharing of the power of political organizing between many women on an equal level. It doesn't really work. And I was very idealistic, so when older, like women with more experience were telling me like, no, like horizontality doesn't work, I was really idealistic, so I wanted to try. And yeah, I learned that horizontality cannot work if there's no horizontality of involvement and horizontality of accountability. And there needs to be some kind of pledge towards equality and out of interpersonal power struggles. And yeah, in general, there can be no horizontality if we are turning a blind eye or enabling abusive dynamics in a group. You can't do horizontality with that because it's not horizontal by definition. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you. I think it's quite a brave thing to say, and so thank you for saying it. You do quite a lot of networking and connecting radical feminists with one another globally. Could you tell us a little bit more about that and how do they find you? How do you find them?
Yeah. So I was extremely lucky that the first radical feminist event I attended in 2017 was a radical feminist event called Women's Gathering in France. It was very international. There were like 200, 300 mostly radical feminists coming from all countries of the world. And so for me, radical feminism was from the start very international. Also, like, let's be honest, like some kind of relative privilege in terms of like being able to live abroad and being able to, like, having had the opportunity to learn different languages. It also makes my view of radical feminism as very international. And so the first big radical feminist I organized was a radical feminist event, organized was in Sweden, with in the team like different women coming from different European countries. And so, yeah, meanwhile, the fact that I was born in the internet generation and that it's been a habit very early on in my life, I do use the internet as a way to engage in radical feminism and as a way to connect in real life, but internet is never an end for me, it's just a means. And so one of my favorite things about this is when I bump into radical feminist social media that I personally didn't know about, social media that I didn't know about before. Like I see some protests happening in some countries where I didn't know any radical feminists there, and so I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing, and I follow the page. I was very fascinated to find, to be able to see what's happening in other countries, because first, like, you know, when you feel very isolated and alienated as a lesbian and as a radical feminist, it's very reassuring to be able to see, like, oh my god, like, those views that I share very dearly, like that I hold very dearly, they are held as well by women like I don't know, like 5,000 kilometers from me. It's a very comforting feeling. And also, like, there is a bit of this idea that radical feminism is a white Western movement, white Western women movement, but actually, like, it's not true. And so some of the strongest grassroots lesbian radical feminist organizing I've seen either online or in real life is like in South Korea or in Mexico. So I did develop a passion about following as many social media as I could. Even when I don't understand the language, I just try to understand, or there's translating, or sometimes I try to learn as well. So I do get a lot of inspiration, and I think it's very important to decenter my vision from the Western European bubble and to actually read what radical feminists are saying around the world, what their challenges are. And so when I connect with women, when I connect with women internationally, I either like just send a message to a collective. Like I follow like pages of collective. That's what I'm interested in. I don't do really individuals or whatever. So I just send a message like, "Hi, I'm gonna be here like on this day. Like, would you be interested in meeting as a radical feminist? As radical feminists? And if they're interested, it's great. If they're not, it's fine." And sometimes they find me because I don't know. They see that they see from stuff I post that I'm there, and they've seen my social media, and they're like, "Oh, you're here, like, let's meet up." And whenever it's possible, I try to promote the work of women from my little corner, let's say, so just by sharing or by when they produce art or merch, like I try to buy or like to promote in my network, so there's other women knowing about their work and stuff. I also connect internationally these days with Belgium, for example, because I live very near the border of Belgium from France. And so, yeah, it's really nice to be able to organize events there. And I think it really, in general, international connection enrich our radical feminist analysis. And yeah, having some visibility online, it doesn't have to be you personally, it can just be a collective or like ideas or whatever. It helps at least finding those women and to have those women find you. Because sadly, like a lot of our communication goes through internet these days. So yeah, I don't know if I was concrete enough.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Sahar. Next up, we have Lepa. I'm just going to do the tech thing. 1 second.
No, I was just commenting the way the book says. Can hear. It's okay.
We'll get there in a minute.
Welcome to my world.
Good. Projector's turned itself off.
I don't know.
While we're waiting for it to turn back on again, let me tell you about Lepa. She was born in socialist communist Yugoslavia, where she started her feminist and lesbian activism. She was an anti-war activist from the beginning of the war in Yugoslavia in 1991. She's co-founder of several feminist groups and networks in the region, including Women in Black Against War, Belgrade, And what's 19?
In 19.
It was in 1991. And the Autonomous Women's Centre Against Sexual Violence in 1993 for survivors of sexual violence and rape in war. She also co-founded lesbian rights group Labris in 1995. She believes in lesbian solidarity. Do you want to start and I'll get the slides up for you?
The slides will go.
The slides will...
They're coming. They're coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
There they are. Hey. Sorry.
I'll get it. It's fine. Everything is fine. If anyone wants to join the FiLiA tech team next year. You don't want to make this.
Okay. Oh, it's my heart is full of all of you lesbians here. And in fact, I want to go a little bit in the past, and I want to say a few words in the name of the lesbians who live in the war zones or around the war zones, and to connect it with lesbian solidarity for lesbians in the war zones. Before I say a little bit about that, I just want to remind you that in this socialist Yugoslavia, I was already a feminist and a lesbian, and I was in 1990 working with women survivors of violence and dreaming to research what would be a lesbian ethics in lesbian community and how we would create a completely different relationships which are not repeating the patriarchal power and control models. But then in 1991, the war started in my country, and that changed my life completely. It's just since I was already a feminist, that meant that the war started from the city where I lived. Therefore, we had to take responsibility for the crimes that are done in our names, and we have formed Women in Black Against War, a group together with our sisters from Israel and Italy, as an international network, but our group was specific because it was against the Serbian criminal regime. Then, as the one who was working already with women who were women survivors of violence, I was very much into working with women who survived sexual violence in war. And that, it went on for years and decades. I never went back to lesbian ethics, but my sisters after me, Myriam Fougère, did, so she will say a little bit about women lesbian living together. I'm so happy. So I will say something about solidarity, because really I'm a lesbian feminist who believes that lesbian solidarity is elementary particle of my lesbian existence, if that is a term in English. Translated from my language, elementary particle, it's almost like every cell has some relation to lesbian solidarity. It created until now. Thank you. And also, I want to just remind you that the war that happened in my country from 91 to 2001, so it was 10 years, it meant 130,000 people killed, about 40 to 50,000 women sexually abused, and more than 1 million to 2 million people who left and never came back. And we are still working and talking about war back in my country. So now, what I want to really stress is that we were lucky that we were in Europe, so we got lots of solidarity of all different kinds during the wartime. And we also noticed at the beginning that women who were coming as volunteers in our feminist groups, and here is my sister from Croatia, Lepa Mukovic. She was in Croatia in the Center for Women of War Victims while I was in Belgrade, and we were also having lots of volunteers coming from Europe to support us, and many of them were lesbians. You know, even if they didn't say. And we realized very soon, I mean, in the beginning, that percentage of lesbians who were volunteering in the war zone were bigger than the percentage of lesbians, in general. So there was something interesting about that. You know, why we are so mobile, or we don't have, families, or we can just move, or we are feminists. So there is lots of them, and there are more lesbians here. Who were coming, in this whole room, who were coming to support us. So, I will just say a few words. That for us who were in Belgrade there was no war zone, but we were affected by the war zone in our neighborhoods, and so what was special about the lesbian solidarity for lesbians? Because really, when you can imagine, you are in a ultra hetero-patriarchal context. So you forget you're a lesbian. I'm working from the morning till the evening with women who have come from the war zone, and you just forget who you are, deep inside. So when the chocolate comes from Italy and it's from a lesbian, I call it a lesbian chocolate, just to remind myself. So I just want to say that lesbian solidarity to lesbians has a particular value and particular characteristic that reminds us of our lesbian souls, and it's therefore completely a different thing than solidarity, which also came from many women in our place. So I want to show a few images of this solidarity. So now, fantastic Samantha, we always have this high-tech mood. So this first.
Okay, so we just go left. Yeah?
So how I go to the whole one,
Which one?
Yeah. Okay, this was just for you for a second, because all of a sudden we got a letter from Julia Penelope, and maybe some of you know about her. And she's also in the film of Lesbiana, so I wanted to make this circulation of lesbian connections. She just wrote a letter to the lesbian in Belgrade. My address was in many places, contact for lesbians. So this is my address, and she says with lots of Dikely love, Julia Penelope. It was really fantastic for some of us to get this letter who says, hello, how are you, And that's enough, because we would remember the book for lesbians only, and then that's it, You just already are in the sky, So then, how do I go to the next one? That's this one. This is another letter which we got from, it's a collective of lesbians and feminists in a fight with the feminists and lesbians of ex-Yugoslavia. Can you imagine? They have made up this long title of their group in France, together with lesbians in Montreal, in Canada. And this one, of course, was a small group connected to a woman's house, Maison de Femme in Paris. And I really want to read you this one statement. They had a whole statement with a couple of pages, which we translated and published in many of our feminist annual notebooks. But this one, it says, we are the group of lesbians in Montreal called Action Politique Lesbian. We have been in existence from '92. And then they say, we believe that it is crucial that lesbians around the world respond to this call for solidarity in great numbers. The existence of lesbians in ex-Yugoslavia is under great threat, and it is time to activate an international network of lesbian solidarity. Thank you for all of that. That is great. And I was publishing so also other heterosexuals could see that we are not forgotten. Yeah. So this is a third image here. It was an incredible lesbian solidarity event. In Italy, are there anybody from Italy here? Yeah. Oh, ciao, okay.
I was there.
Oh! Okay, there was something.
No, not that one, sorry, the one.
Well, there was something called Lesbian Week, La Settimana Lesbica in the 90s. And there were lots of feminist lesbians who were organizing. It was very democratic and horizontal. They were trying to be very horizontal. Very horizontal. And because I knew one of them via Valenciennes women, it doesn't matter, but we were lesbian from the group who were organizing. They decided to collect money in Italy from the lesbians to invite 15 lesbians from ex-Yugoslavia because they felt responsible because there was war there. That was the main and the only reason, because this was solely Italian lesbian week. It was not international event. It was Italian. It was only in Italian language. And of course, they knew we would love it so much. It doesn't matter. We don't speak Italian. So what happened was that we then went there. You just can't imagine how was it. You know, they were. It is a villa near Bologna, and there is a huge space of lawn, garden, and a bigger one, and you entered there for 4 days. And there are two charming lesbians who are sitting for some improvised table, and it says Lesbo Bank. And what you're supposed to do is to give, at that time Italia had liras, so you're supposed to give liras to them, and they will give you a little piece of paper, just like any paper, and it says if you give 5,000 liras, they say 5,000 lesbo liras. Because you enter in the lesbian state. And there is no liras anymore, as less patriarchy as possible, etc., etc. We were felt like on a lesbian cloud. And so that's why we're horizontal, I guess. And this was incredible for all of us, but just to finish with the lesbians from Slovenia, which is the part which really didn't have a war, and they already had a lesbian group by that time. They said, listen, we are going to do our lesbian week the year after, and they did. So we started our ex-Yugoslav lesbian weeks after this one, because we were so much inspired thanks to the lesbian solidarity. Thank you, all Italians. There is this little photo and us, these lesbians from Belgrade, from the group Labris, also me, but it doesn't matter, and all the others. And we are here thanking lesbians in US who send us lesbian coffee. So there is we all like having coffee cups because we are drinking the coffee after the one lesbian meeting. So that was just to say that. And at the end, this is the last one. Last image. It was from here because I wanted to finish with a fantastic lesbian solidarity news from your country, and that's Women's Aid to former Yugoslavia. Yes. Woo! And I have written only some names here of the lesbians who were in that group. And they were collecting from citizens. They were collecting different items to pack them and to rent a camion, a truck, and then of course, which is the train truck. I'm sorry, and yes, and there is some of them are here, but I know Charlotte, whose name is not here, and this on the photo is Ray, who is also maybe not here. But I have a deal with one here to say something. How was it for?
It was just a privilege to be able to do something and to be able to do something that helped in a way that they needed the help, rather than us coming in and saying, oh, we need to supply this for you. It was all, what women asked for. And to just do a little bit was fantastic.
And you said why it was important for you, you learned via us,
Yeah, it was a grassroots project. What FI was sort of just to be with other lesbians, support other women, and to learn sort of from a grassroots angle rather than
news, than the mainstream news.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm so moved. Is anybody else from this group, or just Charlotte, whose name is not here? It's okay. So this is what I want to finish here, and I just want to finish with one phrase, which is a phrase from Pat Parker, who is a black lesbian poet, and her comrade, friend was Audre Lorde, and she, another black lesbian poet, and she wrote, "I promise to love you and call you sister."
Just a moment while I do tech again. I was promised left and right arrows, but I'm not seeing them.
I think you need to open all of these things together.
Huh?
I think you need to select all of the photos and then it might create a slideshow. Yeah.
Unless it's already in the slideshow. And they might put it on it. Yes. Right. So I just go and do but I think it's doing it. I think it's doing it like another thing. So you might just need to so it's okay, so I'll start it. Yeah, feel free, feel free to. Yeah. Okay, it should do. I can stay until the end. So, Myriam Fougère. She is a dilettante filmmaker, sculptor, lesbian feminist who loves to create, visit, and inhabit lesbian spaces. She says, creating spaces where we can be fully ourselves, where we can learn how to relate to each other differently, seems to me an interesting goal for the rest of my life.
Yes.
She's the author of 3 documentaries about women and lesbians. So we have Lesbiana 2012, I think maybe some of you have seen that this weekend.
Yes.
Feminista in 2017, On a Moving Path in 2007. If you want those names again, come up and ask us at the end. Myriam also worked as a house painter for most of her life, alternating between making sculptures, making films, and painting. So please can you tell us about the project you've been working on for the last 9 years? La Maison des RebElles. I think the French have the best names.
It means the rebel's house, okay? Alors, I will read my text because it's in English. I believe that creating lesbian space is an act of political resistance to survive patriarchy. It's about discovering our full potential as women and about learning how to relate to each other differently. In 1915, do the pictures change by themselves now? That's too much to ask, I guess.
So we'll just do that?
Yeah.
And then I think it's just going to be
Okay.
time, so they're just
Perfect.
running through.
So in 2015, I joined a group of lesbians. To explore how we could create ways to grow old together. It took 9 years to create a social housing project, which is now home to 22 women aged 55 and older. The majority are lesbians and some are feminist allies. Feminist allies who recognize lesbian culture and share our main values. We live in 22 separate apartments and share a large common room, le Salon des RebElles, equipped with a communal kitchen for dinner as well as meetings, dances, etc. Solidarity and self-management are the key to our governance model. Each resident is expected to contribute to the functioning of the whole by participating in at least one committee. There are 8 committees. I am on about 3 of them, but the 8 committees to choose from, depending on your interests or your life experience. Nonviolent communication is the approach we have chosen to facilitate healthy communication. Each resident member has signed on to learn how to put this into practice within the community. So the pictures are different meetings we had and to lead to the house, and now it's been a year. I moved in November last year into that house, and it's in a big modern building. We're like the social part. There are condos at the back. There is a nice little river. The condos look at the river. We are on the street, of course, but we're there. And I'll go back to my thing. For the project to be financially viable, to get government funding for La Maison des RebElles, we joined with 2 other women's groups, and altogether we offer a total of 122 units. We share one of 2 6-story buildings. No, there are 2 6-stories building, and we are in one with a group of women that's called Logis Femmes, who provide the lodging for women who had lots of trouble in their lives. and also were victims of violence. And the second building, the 6-story building, is it's called RebElles, and they provide safe housing for marginalized women and children, and there is a daycare at the bottom, at the first floor of their building. Lots of women have also been victims of violence. Our goal is to be able to live creative and active life as long as possible, surrounded by lesbian and women who share our feminist and ecological values, and who are willing to offer each other solidarity and support, mutual aid. We are interested in connecting with groups in other countries who share our values and interests. So that's the gist of it. And I think it's the first one in Canada. Well, what was a miracle is that we got funding from the government. So we don't own, it's a lesbian space that will keep on being a lesbian space for after we die, you know. I mean, it's to provide the apartments, and it's not the cheapest of apartments, but we are like cheap enough to start with, and the deal is that we can't be kicked out and nobody can raise the rent without, we will raise the rent when we need more money to make it work, but so that's what it looks like when it was in construction. And for many years we had Zoom meetings, of course, and now we can be in person, and it's great.
Could you tell us a little bit about what it means for you to be part of the living arrangement?
It means everything. When I was young, I was 22, traveling in Florida. There was a group that was called Crone's Nest, and they were trying to do exactly that. So, you know, from that time on, I was hoping to one day be able to be in a group like that, and like I'm sure many of you would like it. And it was very difficult until the end, and she's still there. And it's like, we don't know if it will even be possible for other women, because the law changed all the time, the program changed, and it's from Canada and Quebec together, but they each have their rules. Anyway, it was really hard, but we're there, so.
Myriam will be staying at the end as well if you'd like to ask her more questions about her project and how you can do the same thing where you are.
Yeah. It's not easy.
Do you want the slide up? First one. Which one? What was it? Yes. It's on there. Oh, it's on there.
Yay!
You might recognise me in the picture here. So now I have the pleasure of introducing the London Lesbian Collective, which I co-founded with the fabulous Miranda a couple of years ago. Just say a couple of words about myself. My journey to feminism started in COVID. I started volunteering in the local community, in food banks, and along the way I met some feminists. I didn't know that at the time. I'll name her because you might know her. Kerry Williams supported me quite a lot in the volunteering that I was doing that ended in a job that she helped prep me for the interview. And then she came out to me as a feminist and told me about FiLiA. And I haven't looked back since. It was WDI, actually, and attending those webinars every weekend. I don't know if some of you go to those. Amazing work that they do, and the breakout rooms after. In those rooms, I learned a lot more about feminism than I did listening to the speeches, in all honesty, to having those discussions with other women, other feminists who've been out there a heck of a lot longer than I have been. That space has been really important in the journey. In there, I also met a woman called Jill Raymond, who I think you might have mentioned earlier, Ray, who's been, she's not here this weekend, sadly, but she's been quite a mentor to me over the last few years. And she introduced me to many things, including web weaving, which you might have seen downstairs. If you haven't already, go and put a weave on there. How did Miranda and I meet? It's enough about me. So 3 years ago, we were introduced by a mutual friend of ours called Tess. I don't know if she's here today. She's definitely here this weekend. I met her in FiLiA Cardiff in lesbian consciousness raising. And we stayed in touch. We then went along to WP UK's conference at UCL a couple of years ago. And Tess introduced Miranda and I there. I was involved in WDI. WDI had a conference that year and I organised the party afterwards with Miranda. A Women's Declaration International. So Miranda and I discovered that we had many shared values and felt the same about one thing. Actually, a few things. We wanted to take action. We want lesbians to be visible. We want other lesbians to be able to find like-minded lesbians. We want to remember how we got here. We want to remember those who came before us. We want to celebrate the wonderful thing that it is to be a lesbian. And we want to move through the world as lesbians and feminists. So, our first event was London Pride by the Ponds in July of 2023. That was scheduled to coincide with London Pride. Yeah. And by the ponds, I don't know if some of you know about the drama at the London Hampstead Heath Ponds. The ladies' pond is like the ladies' pond. So we looked around the feminist movement and we saw that there was a gap still. So Pride is one thing. But what we wanted was a lesbian event in the feminist movement, one that had a political focus. We didn't see one around. There was plenty of socials. Credit to the women who came before, building those networks and building those spaces for us, but we wanted something political. We wanted somewhere where we could explore and discover our own values and morals, where we are held and encouraged to interrogate and not just rely on what others tell us. We wanted a space where women new to the movement, like ourselves, would have the opportunity to stand up and speak, to learn new skills, and to learn from the women who came before us. I'm done talking now. Miranda is going to speak for the rest of this time. Miranda Imperial is my work wife. You might tell because we have the same haircut now. She is a Spanish lesbian radical feminist who's made North London her home, or hotbed of lesbian organising, whichever way you want to think of it. She has a PhD in sociology from Cambridge and is now very relieved to have left academia and is actually now putting some theory into practice. She spends most of her time thinking about lesbians. She wrote this herself. Talking to lesbians, and slowly plotting the creation of a tiny feminist library of her own, possibly with far too much poetry. So, Miranda, would you like to come? Miranda's going to come and tell us more about LLC. Thank you so much, Sam.
So thank you so much for being here today. We could not do this without you, without FiLiA, and I just wanted to say the biggest thank you to Sam for everything that you do for us to make this possible. Please, round of applause for Sam. Thank you. So I guess a little bit about how I became involved in lesbian organising within radical feminism. As Sam said, I'm originally from Spain. I've now lived in the UK for 10 years. I don't know if they're short 10 years or long 10 years, but here we are. And I came here for university. I immediately was very keen on organising events for lesbians at university. Now, when this was happening, it was 2016, which will tell you my age. But the climate was really, really bad for lesbians wanting our own spaces and our own culture, our own people. We couldn't really gather as lesbians. We were told, in fact, that lesbian wasn't an inclusive enough word. And so I had to power on, get through university, and find the lesbians some sort of other way. I later had a relationship with a lesbian who introduced me to radical feminism. And when that relationship eventually broke down, I was very keen on seeking out community. And I want to give a big shout out to my friend, Kelly Frost. I don't think she's here right now, but if any of you know her, please, she is like the biggest connector of lesbians and radical feminists in London, and she deserves a massive shout out for all her work. She welcomed me into a movement where finally we could have spaces for ourselves without centering men. I found that at university there were so many of these so-called LGBT spaces that ended up gravitating around them. So we wanted to create those spaces for lesbians where, you know, we wanted to create those conversations, as Sam was saying earlier. A bit about what we're trying to do with LLC, London Lesbian Collective. We've been running for 3 years now, and we've talked about, quite poignantly here today, and over the course of the last 3 days, how women's work and women's histories have been and are trying to be effaced, like our sisters trying to campaign for Mary Clark's statue in Brighton were telling us the first day, for example. We really don't want to see our history as lesbians and feminists erased. We're very clear on that. And we want the voices of our friends who are involved in the second wave and just after to live on and inform what we do and continue to shape the movement with their valuable teachings. We also want to create a space where younger women, perhaps, are stepping up despite the difficulties and taking a step forward, even though we organise for lesbians of all ages, really. So the main reasons why we do what we do and how we do it. How we gather, the gathering is a lesbian-only space, so exclusively lesbian only, and we do one gathering per year, around April time. There are no exceptions to this, so you'll be very glad to hear that we get about 80 to 100 lesbians in several rooms, and we come together and discuss issues that uniquely affect us. As Sam was saying, we're quite keen to go beyond the social. We want lesbians to be able to talk to each other. We believe in the important networks that are created in social settings. However, we want lesbians to develop their own, actually, understandings of political issues and of themselves within them. We don't have an excessively prescriptive way of doing so, of course. There's a variety of ways of doing this. We are quite keen for artistic expression to come into play, so not everything is like dry, talking about, I don't know, theory and academic speech. We actually really don't do academic stuff all that much, despite my dark past. But yeah, Sam's mentioned the web weaving. I'm a big fan of poetry, so I try to, and the lesbian tradition in poetry, so try to push that as well. We also have a lovely open mic that takes place, that's really popular. We of course have a party, we like to party. And finally, and most importantly, is the participatory nature of our event. We like to organise a little bit differently. And for this reason, we run feedback sessions before and after the gathering. We want to consult with all of the women that are interested in our network and in our organising. And we hear that, yeah, they really enjoy organising like this, that it's a bit personal, a bit different. We work really closely with facilitators who come forward with their own ideas of what they want to speak about and what they wish for participants to engage in. And we just provide this core organisational framework where their ideas can come to life, and we couldn't do it without them. They place their trust in us, and we hope that this imbibes the event with a degree of equality, where every woman's experiences are knowledge, where knowledge is wisdom, and where we come together to enact these teachings and create great things, despite whatever differences we may have. Adhering to respect and a community of equals.
So, what are you hoping for from the future?
Well, I dread that question. I don't know if you can. Do you want to look at? Should I do it? It's not working. Wait, what's going on? Online? Technologically incompetent. Just for a little second, no? Yeah. So this is an example of what we do. This is an example of what we're doing. And I'm shamelessly plugging our event next year. With the very amazing graphics that Joe made for us. Shout out to Joe. So we want to keep going. That's a big goal and a difficult goal, considering, I mean, Sam and I have our challenges. I mean, we've both been through a redundancy in the last year, for example. We've had, housing problems, we've had bereavements, but we keep going. And to be honest, without the motivation that she brings into my life, I could not do it. So that motivates keeping going. And as part of that, the more concrete end goals, I would say, are to come to a place where it is not polemic to meet and talk as lesbians in a lesbian-only space. That's a big goal of ours. Sam is also very passionate about women coming together and feeling inspired to change their own lives in whatever way they think that they see fit, essentially. And I'm also really passionate about supporting other women to do their own organising for lesbians. And I would say that's our third goal. We know that we need to create our own language to speak to one another. There is no script on how to be lesbians. There are no norms. We have to create them as we go, like our sisters, lesbian sisters, has done before us. And frankly, we will keep going as long as lesbians want us to. We last because we are always wanted and what is needed. We understand that the movement goes on. We understand that nothing is permanent. Things evolve naturally and organically. We want to see the movement evolve beyond us. But at the same time, it's a very exciting time to be a lesbian. There are plenty of existing groups and new groups coming out, at least in the UK, that we're aware of, that we are networking with and work very closely with, and without whose support we could not organise. And we want to keep seeing how we can all shape the movement together. I don't know if you had anything else to add, Sam, to that.
No. do just want to thank FiLiA and Lynn and the other lesbians of FiLiA for giving us a platform to speak.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Press anywhere.
I'm going to kidnap her. What did you say, Lisa?
Yeah, we wanted
I'm
it
going
on.
to kidnap
It's
her.
fine.
I know.
It's all right. We'll come back on. Right, so our last speaker is Akua Reindorf. She's a KC, a barrister at Cloisters Chambers specialising in employment discrimination and human rights law. She is often instructed in cases involving women's and LGBT rights. Recent work includes acting for Sex Matters in the judicial review of the British Transport Police's strip searching policy, advising a women's organisation on their single-sex policy, acting for Alison Bailey in the first successful case against the service provider for gender-critical police discrimination, and defending LGB Alliance against the challenge to their charitable status worldwide mermaids. In 2021, she wrote the Reindorf Review for the University of Essex, which was widely reported as a landmark contribution to the debate on sex and gender. Akua is currently a commissioner of the Equality and Human Rights Commission and a visiting senior fellow in the Law School of the London School of Economics, where she focuses on the law of freedom of speech and academic freedom. Akua will be speaking today in her personal capacity.
No, but I didn't have that. No, I'm all right. I just have to hold this up like that. Okay. Let me put that down. No, it's fine. Right. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. Lovely to see so many lesbians in the room. I don't know when I last was in a lesbian-only space. It could be 10 years for all I know. So it's very nice. And it's very inspiring hearing from all these amazing women about all the work that they're doing across the continent. I have no idea why I've been asked to talk about the importance of lesbian community and where we are now.
Because you're lesbian catnip.
Oh, right, always rely on Kate. I have never knowingly done anything with the word organising in the name. Nothing like the extraordinary work that these women do. I'm completely in awe of them. The idea of doing that kind of work brings me out in a cold sweat, frankly. But I have found peace with the fact that I am not an organiser, nor am I a joiner in. I suspect that I may not be alone in that, and there may be other women in this room who also don't, run their own housing co-ops or, open their own feminist bookshops and so on. But when I was thinking about what I would say today, I realised that the reason why I actually don't have, and probably have never had, I may have now, but never had in the past anything that I would really describe as a lesbian community, is probably not because I'm fundamentally antisocial, although I am, but more because of the work of the women who came before me, in the generation above me, who made it possible for me not to have a lesbian community. So I want to use my talk today to pay homage to them, really, and to those who are now stepping up again to recover and re-secure our place in society and make it fit for the next generation of lesbians to occupy. Sorry for leaning down, I'm not very good at standing. So I came out in my 20s, which was in the early 90s, It was not a desperately political time. I was brought up in a feminist household. My mum had a couple of lesbian friends who we hung out with and went to lots of old lefty things and, Green and Common and so on. But the 90s was pretty apolitical, or at least it was in my life. It was young lesbians in those days. I heard a story last night from a friend who's here about the mid to late 80s. She was living in Bristol. She was at a lesbian-only event, and they got kicked out of the event. I don't know, there may well be women who were there. They got kicked out of the event, and there was ranks of men outside, some wearing steel-cap boots, and they were laid into by these men. A woman was rendered deaf. One woman had her shin broken. The police treated the thing with disdain and said, my friend managed to phone the police, and the police said, well, if you bring the men in, we'll arrest them. We had no fear of that sort of thing. By even 5 or 6 years later, the work of a lot of the women who are here, and a lot of women in the generation above me have made, or had by that time, made life very much safer for lesbians. And we didn't face that sort of outright bigotry from the authorities or from the police or anything of that sort. I mean, I will acknowledge that I've always moved in very comfortable sort of middle-class metropolitan circles, so that's really what I'm talking about. I was in my early 90s here at Sussex University and living in Brighton. It was a very gay-friendly place, believe it or not, in those days. But it was the same as true. I moved home to Cambridge in the mid-90s, and then I moved to Hackney. All very nice, very easy. My lesbian life really consisted of going to the candy bar and the glass bar, and this was not Rebel Dykes. It wasn't radical direct action or consciousness-raising workshops or abseiling into the House of Lords. It wasn't anything. It was just light, fun, safe. We could be out with our friends and family in public. And that was all made possible by women who came before, like one of my personal heroes, Julie Bindle, who's not here, but I think hopefully Harriet's still here. No, she's not here in this room, I don't think. She's too antisocial for that. Julie, are you here? Oh, lovely. Harriet's here. Well, Harriet's also a hero. So they are the women who stood up before and took the flak and showed the way to us. And then in the 2000s, I settled down in Hackney, developed my career, had kids. And in the previous decade, there had been a routine practice in the family court of denying custody of of children to mothers who came out as lesbians. Women like Linda Bellos, who I can see is here with us today, who we heard from very powerfully on on Friday. Another hero of mine, well done, Linda. But that practice had died a death by the time me and my ex had our first child in 2004. We had the Children Act 1989, which completely changed the structure of custody arrangements. And that was, partly thanks to work of the women like Susan Gollenbach, a London University academic. Then we had, in 2002, same-sex adoption was introduced. 2003, Section 28 was repealed, long discredited in any event by that time and only of symbolic importance, but nonetheless, it was important. 2004, civil partnerships. And, because of these legal gains and the societal changes that they signified, the decision for me and my ex to build a family as an out lesbian couple just was not a daunting one. The hard yards had been put in and really terrible losses endured by feminist lesbians in the generation above. We had no need of lesbian housing cooperatives, or we didn't have to worry too much about our kids being bullied at school. One of my friends said to me, was it really fair to bring children into the world? And I said, well, if it isn't, it's only because of people like you. And that was the end of that conversation, but he was the only one. He was an ex, actually, from my heterosexual days. But we didn't feel really any different to the other young families around us in Hackney. I mean, we were effectively, I think, living the Stonewall dream, just fully integrated, access to a form of marriage if we wanted it, which we didn't, but it was there, and legal recourse, legal protection if there were any problems, and the knowledge that the law would take us seriously. And for similar sorts of reasons, the decision to be out at work was pretty straightforward. It was not particularly difficult for me to make that decision. We had anti-discrimination law in the 2003 employment equality sexual orientation regulations, which were very late. There had been a sort of effort to have sexual orientation discrimination before, but it was too complicated with the way that discrimination law worked. But those regulations came in. They only covered employment, but then in 2010 the Equality Act pulled in all sorts of other things, services, housing, education, etc. And that's where we get the ability to have lesbian-only associations. I'm not saying it was unlawful before that, but it gave explicit legal basis for it. And then in 2013, full marriage equality job seemed to be done, really. And as we know, all the kind of establishment charities and organisations drifted off in another direction. Now, my kids are grown up now. In fact, it's my son's 20th birthday today. Baby. And I, as I came blinking out into the light after the years of nappies and football and whatever, I realised that lesbian social life and lesbian visibility had almost died on their feet while I wasn't looking. Perhaps because I wasn't there, that must be it, I think. But, by 2023, there are only 3 lesbian bars left in the entire country. The one in London was self-ID anyway, so that's not a lesbian bar. And, more worryingly, as we all know, excuse me, young lesbians were being told that they were bigots if they didn't include men in their dating pools. Women were being kicked off dating apps but for saying they only wanted to meet other women. And young lesbians were identifying as men or as non-binary. I was absolutely shocked that lesbians were hating being women. It was so counterintuitive and just deeply, deeply wrong. And so tragic. I just haven't got words to describe the tragedy of that. And I was shocked, and it was confusing also because all the legal rights that had been gained by our sort of foremothers in the 90s and the 2000s were still there. All the social change was still there. It took me a little while to work out, a little bit of lurking on Twitter for a couple of years to work out what was going on. I have to be fairly careful about what I say, but basically, men were taking our stuff, is what I realised. And all the establishment charities and organisations led by Stonewall were telling them that they had a right to it, which they did not. And what was worse, also the threat of violence was back, which was horrifying to see. So really, as I said at the beginning, I'm not a natural political activist, I'm not an organiser, but I did feel there was something I could do, which was I could do my job. I could put my professional expertise as a lawyer to use to help to re-establish who and what the law is supposed to be for. And long story short, I found myself on the 16th of April of this year sitting in the Supreme Court listening to Lord Hodge telling us that lesbians were women and that men were not lesbians. And as hard as it is to believe, that decision on that day, the For Women Scotland decision, the simple statement of our existence as same-sex attracted women, was the single most significant step in establishing our rights in decades. The case, as you all know, I'm sure, was brought and supported by grassroots women's groups and lesbian groups, including the wonderfully named lesbian interveners, and having watched the whole hearing in person, I am quite confident that it was the lesbian intervention that made the difference. It was an absolutely stunning victory for lesbians. Not that you would know it from the LGBTQIA+ press, but it was stunning, and it means that we can confidently assert our legal right now to live our lives without having to include heterosexual males in it. And I genuinely believe that there will be a resurgence of lesbian social and political life as a result.
Yes.
And I think we can feel that here this weekend. I think we can see it in the younger women who I'm so glad to see here, so many younger faces. You may not think there's a lot of younger faces, but I promise you that by comparison to our normal events, there are. So it's wonderful, and it's really, really great to see. And I feel like my generation, or certainly we took our eye off the ball for a bit. Life was too easy for us in the 90s, but For Women Scotland is what we've done to honour the legacy and to start to take our stuff back. And the lesson I've learned from it really is there's always something that you can do. I don't have to be organising direct action or running consciousness raising workshops or setting up a feminist bookshop in order to be able to contribute. Those things can be done by the women who are good at it, and I can be grateful for that. But they are the women who hold the community together and make sure it's still there when we all need it. But we each do have a part to play if we play to our own strengths.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I wanted to thank FiLiA very, very much. This is actually my first FiLiA.
Oh, incredible. Thank you, Akua, and thank you for sharing another side of you with us today. So we've run over time, you won't be surprised to hear, but we are on lunch, so if anyone needs to leave, please don't be afraid to stand up and exit the room. But otherwise, if it's okay with the speakers, we'll run on a little bit and do some questions. 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, you've got a lunch date? Because Akua has to leave shortly, I'll take a question if anyone has a question for Akua first. Okay. Do we have a runner in the room, by the way, a volunteer? That would be nice. Can you do it? Yeah? Just have that mic.
I don't think that's the movie.
Thank you. I'm Femi, and this is an invitation to you, Akua. I don't know if you knew, but you said you hadn't been in a room with so many lesbians for a long time.
This is true.
I wish I'd known that you were there and you hadn't had that experience, because I would have invited you to last Saturday when I had just under 200 black lesbians in one room.
I'll come to the next one, Femi.
I think you were invited, Linda, but we'll do another one.
Me and Linda will come to the next one.
So that's an invitation to you, and it's also a plea to all of the others of you didn't know that 200 black lesbians were gathering in the name of the Black Lesbian Warriors. We have series of meetings which we call My Sister's Tools, in honour of, most of you will recognise Audre Lorde. So look us up, we're easy to find. Just tell other black lesbians about about My Sister's Tools, Black Lesbian Warriors, and I'll see you at our next event.
Definitely, it's okay.
You're all witnesses to that.
My name is Linda. I'm going to announce another lesbian event that happens every month. It's sponsored by FiLiA, and it's the Labris Lit Book Club. It's organized by Claire Huchin, who couldn't be here this month, but or this weekend. But we meet the last Sunday of every month in our own little lesbian Zoom room, and we're going to meet here in this room at 1 o'clock just to be able to meet each other in person. And if you'd like to know more about FiLiA's Lesbian Book Club, please join us.
Okay, wait. Do we have anyone who actually has a question for Akua?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Look, you have a question? Katerina has a question.
Thank you. My name is Katerina. I have a question for you. As a legal professional, what would your suggestion for other women, rad femme, lesbian feminists that are in the legal profession to get more involved? Like, what can we practically do?
I mean, my honest answer is I really don't know, because as I said, I don't do that kind of stuff. I literally just get on with my job. But, I mean, there are women's groups at the bar, and it depends whether you're at the bar or a solicitor, but, you know, there are groups, and for instance, Legal Feminist is a really, really excellent place to start if you're interested in women's legal rights and you're a lawyer. And you may eventually be allowed into the hallowed halls of our WhatsApp group. Although I've now announced I'm in Legal Feminist, which is supposed to be a secret, so that's a secret, everybody. But yeah, that's a good place to start. And Legal Feminist has a website, and there's loads of really good blogs on there. And then you can reach out to the group, reach out to Naomi Cunningham, she runs it basically. And I mean, she's indefatigable, Naomi, and yeah, there's a community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Whilst we're talking about everyone's favourite lesbian lawyer, no, he's not a lesbian. We've done an update of the legal defence of lesbian spaces. I've got some leaflets here. So that's LGBT Alliance Cymru, thank you very much, and sponsored by FiLiA. So please pick up a leaflet to find out. Huh? Yes, it's authored by Naomi. We're just disappointed that she's not a lesbian. Are we waiting for her? Okay. Thank you very much. So we have with us the Vancouver Lesbian Collective, and I think they'd just like to say a couple of words, if that's all right with everyone.
I actually was just going to suggest, I imagine there are quite a few lesbians in the room who are organizing in various ways, and I wondered if maybe it was worthwhile that if we kind of maybe, if you're representing a group here, or if you're an active lesbian, you know, organizing with other lesbians in one way or another, stand up at your table and just do a bit of a round, so we kind of get a sense of who we are and what we're all doing, just very briefly. I don't know if that's okay with the organizers, but just so we see each other. I think it's really amazing to see all the things that you're doing, and to have just a sense. No, I just wanted to see each other and hear the name of the group. But that's fine.
We would have done that. Yeah. Cool. Does anyone have any questions for any of the speakers today? Di over there. Oh, Nina first, sorry, and then Di.
I guess it's a question for Miranda and Sam. I came to your gathering, like the first one in 2024, and I loved that it was participatory, and I would encourage everyone to come and see how great it is. But could you speak a little bit about the nature of the sessions and the workshops?
Yes, of course, yeah. Nina, actually, you ran a wonderful session on talking about coming out as lesbians, which was really interesting and insightful. I was able to go to that. I was really happy to go to that as an organizer when you're running around all day. It was amazing. So yeah, that's one of the points. We talked about the cotton ceiling and how trans and gender identity has affected lesbians. We've talked about the challenges of politicizing the personal, We have had skill sessions, like how to make lesbians visible through practical ways of sharing media to wider audiences. We've even had left or right, who should lesbian radical feminists align with, which actually went by conflict-free, and everyone managed to speak to each other with no hands or anything like that. It was really, really well managed, actually. Well done to Bettina. I think she's left the room now, unfortunately. Everything through to the history of lesbian feminist political action and engagement since the 70s, to lesbian community building, kindness and compassion in activism and politics, and the effect of porn on lesbians and lesbian culture. So really a wide range of topics that we cover, and we hope to continue to cover. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that they're very, purely by coincidence, their very first gathering was 50 years, practically to the day, from the first lesbian feminist conference in this country. So it was purely by accident, and it was just a wonderful thing.
Thanks. Di, you have a question?
Oh, God, I hate these things. Okay. So we had the privilege last night and all of this weekend to get together with amazing lesbians, amazing lesbian organisers, amazing lesbian activists, and I just want a promise from all of us to keep this going. Like, that's my question, is promise me we're going to keep this going, because it has been a long... I was part of Lesbian Strength. We try and organise to get people to come out. So while we're organising, also make a commitment to go to the things being organised, because that's what makes it worth the effort for us as organisers. That's what our bread and butter is. And Sam, Miranda, you're inspirational, and I want to see more young women following your steps. And I know you're going to say, I'm not young, Sam, but you know, you are.
Younger.
In terms of the movement, we need these new women coming in. So my thing is, let's keep this going. Can we make that promise?
Absolutely, and that is a very good segue. Thank you, Di. To the lesbian organisers in the room, this is actually on my list of things to do. Could I ask the lesbian organisers in the room to stand up, please? Because we're in the lunch break. When we're done, I'd really like it if you find the opportunity to go and speak to some of these amazing lesbian organisers who are trying to create spaces and organise lesbians globally. So we don't have time for that, sorry. We don't have time to go around and for them, but come and find them. They're going to probably hang out here for a bit. Sally, you have a question?
Well, it's more a reply to what Di said, which is I think it's really, really important, and I'm really grateful to all of you for the work that you're all doing. And I've been to the London Lesbian Collective events, and they've been fantastic. So I want to commend them to anybody who can manage it. And I'm also going to just get in a quick before Sam takes the microphone off me, to say that we have an organisation in Scotland called Lesbian Persistence, which is trying to raise the profile of lesbians socially, politically and culturally, and also to build lesbian community, because there's very little been going on in Scotland for a lot of years. And so I want to invite anybody who's here. It's a question. Is there anybody from Scotland here who would like to join us?
Thanks, Sally. Yes, so if you would like more lesbian stuff at future FiLiAs, feed it back to FiLiA in your feedback form. Think about what you might propose as a workshop as well for next time, or a session that you'd like to offer. Do we have, we're running on a little bit, but let's take one or two more questions quickly.
It's actually not a question, so if there's other people, other women with questions.
Maybe there's a question.
It's not a question. It's just a quick remark that everyone who has like an organization that they want to promote, you could do it in the app, and then we could find everyone's special thing Yeah, aside from this.
We've also got a lesbian link-up stall downstairs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's right by the cafe. There's lesbians at the stall, you can't miss them.
Quick question, Simon, where do you have, what kind of building? How are you able and allowed to do it?
How are we able? So it's the networks that women have been building the last few years. That's why we kind of do the shout out. So we share the invitation privately. That's not what you mean.
No, what I mean is, given the current climate, when you were doing it last year, where did you hold it?
Community centre.
Thank you.
Yeah, we use community centres. Because we think it's important to keep investing in the community centres in the UK that haven't been invested in. I don't know why we're not using those spaces anymore. But
expensive.
Money.
But we fundraise for it and we make it work.
So we use community centres. Basically, that's all we do, and we don't keep hidden what we do. We're open about it as being a lesbian-only event. We just don't over-explain ourselves because that's what we're doing. However, we have also been cautious about how we advertise it. Both of us have been in jobs. My last job that made me redundant, my boss was a they, them, whatever that means. And same there. So we've put a lot on the line to try and put events on. And it's still scary now, actually. There's a lot of doubling down since the judgment within the community. So the threat is there.
Somebody mentioned the first lesbian conference here, and I certainly remember very clearly the 1976, I think it was, which was the Bristol conference, and Bent Ladies. This is a song of the bent ladies. The Pope says we're saved if we repent. Ladies, Queen Victoria didn't think we even went together, ladies, but went together, ladies, we're content. Boom, boom. Anyway, I'm not going to go on because it's got verses. It was my coming out song.
Last question, and then we must wrap up.
Sorry if I missed, if you've covered it already, but is it following on from what you were saying, the kind of pushback you get from using, do you get any pushback from using council buildings? Because I've run a group before that I was told I couldn't run anymore because I didn't allow that one man in to join a 80-person burlesque exercise group. But that was 5 years ago. We've had the Supreme Court judgment. So after the Supreme Court judgment, if you say women-only lesbian space, and they say to you, what does that mean? Does it include trans women? And you say no, do you get pushback? Or have you encountered it?
We haven't encountered it yet, partly because we advertise relatively secretly through women's networks, so we're not putting stuff on socials that much, but we do. So we put information online, but we don't. We do a lot of vetting, and so we don't put the ticket link on the internet, so they can't buy a ticket. So we are still playing it quite cautiously because for us it's important that the event actually happens. We don't want it to become a thing in and of itself, right? So that would become an action if we're then making a point. So the Lesbian Pride event is a little bit more like that because we are just taking up space in a public area. But for that we want the event to happen. We don't want it to be disrupted. And that is slowly changing. Hopefully we will be able to advertise openly online at some point. But the risk of the event not happening, also the risk to our jobs and ourselves being doxed.
That's good to
other
know.
things.
So it means that I've got to be careful about my language where I actually advertise if I want to do something. For now, the climate is still a bit.
No, don't.
Because although the Supreme Court judgment has made a huge change, it doesn't change what the local community feels about the issue. So they could disrupt you to such an extent. We don't have the resources. It's me and Miranda, and some money that women give for that to pay for the renting of the space. So we don't, that's just us. So we can't afford to risk it.
I mean, that's very much why we did the legal defence.
Yeah.
Was to try and give women the lines that will help that. but certainly Dee and I are from Wales, and I want to talk to Sam and Miranda about something, thinking about a kind of very practical guide to, you know, how you might manage those boundaries.
Yeah. Can we wrap up?
Yeah, okay, just very quickly, I think Sam's right to say be careful, because there was a side event here that I was at the other night that had been cancelled by 2 venues before it found the third one that it actually happened in. So you are in danger of, you know, prejudice. I mean, this is Brighton. Yeah. So I was going to say something.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. We're happy to continue. Sorry.
Yeah, very something related to that.
I'm from a very rural part of South Wales, London originally, and I had a group that ran for 10 years that was infiltrated by some men who insisted on staying. But the way around it, I did get arrested, done for a hate crime, but it was, you know, I took it all the way and fought the battle and won. Yeah. But how I got around it, I really stick 2 fingers up to the rubber leather men who were waving their dicks around in the lesbian route, was that I set up a private members club. And it was really simple. So if you want to run something and you want to, you know, sort of filter it through, similar to what a few people have said here, is just establish a members club, because that's how I dealt with police. I said it's a private members club, you have to join, and there are certain circumstances in which you can become a member. And that is a way that you can get away with running classes. It's through membership. And it can be a free membership, obviously, but it gives you a chance to filter it through. And it's worked very, very successfully. I haven't gone back to running that particular group, but I'm sort of building up the energy to relaunch something like that in the Brecon Beacons in South Wales. So good luck with what you do.
Thank you very much. I am going to have to wrap up now. Thank you all for your patience and for those who have stayed.
Private club.